Hi, and welcome back to Google Search Education. This is Lesson 2, Understanding Our Search Results. Before we get started, I'd just like to remind you that in order to get the most out of this particular presentation, you're going to want to make sure you have open and have access to the Google worksheet that was created by your instructor. So if we go and take a look at our Google Search Education worksheet, Lessons 1 and 2, you'll see that Lesson 2 happens to be down at the bottom of the first page. And if you didn't get an email from your instructor with a direct link to your personal document with your name on it, then you can go to our class blog, and in the blog post, scroll down to the fourth paragraph, you'll be able to find a link to a template copy. Clicking and opening this template copy just means you're going to have to create your own copy, rename your own copy, share your own copy. It's a little bit of a hassle. Better thing would be to actually ensure that you got an email from your instructor, open up the linked copy in that email, and voila, you've got your own copy with your own name. All you got to do is save, and you'll be good to go. So again, if you don't have this open already, make sure you take a couple of moments to get it open, get it up on your screen. That way you have access to edit it when we have a moment for some of the exercises. So if you can remember in our last lesson, you developed queries using key search terms that resulted after we parsed our questions. In this lesson, we'll follow some new queries and examine the results we get on our search result pages. We'll look at these search result pages and learn what information they give to help guide us through the research process. Do you remember when we heard from Matt in the video that was presented in our last lesson? Do you recall how he mentioned that search terms are interpreted to gather information? The search engines cannot truly understand the context of a query the way that a person like you and I can. And they function by matching the words we type in their various web pages. So actually searching for the words, not necessarily the context around those words. So it's not really that surprising that many similar search results will appear as the content on those pages contain the same search terms. So if you just search for, say, I don't know, the Chicago Cubs baseball, you'd probably get a whole bunch of different websites, all looking like the same thing, with all the same similar information. Well, because there's got the same search terms embedded on those websites. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a Google search together right now. I'd like you to open up in your browser a new tab and go to google.com. And when you're there, I want you to search for this particular query, the Nautilus pompilius. Go ahead, type it in, hit search. Let's see what you get. I'm looking for the Nautilus pompilius. See, there are many other times when, for a variety of reasons that we're going to explore today, some results are better matched to my particular need than others. If I were looking for information on the animal called the Nautilus pompilius, my first screen results would probably look something just about like this, right? But what's going on in these results? Remember, the search that I was doing, what I intended for, was to find information about animals. You might note that many of the results are not about the animal, but they're actually about a band called Nautilus pompilius, rather than the animal, because, well, maybe our query wasn't specific enough. Do you think you can point to some of the cues on the page that would indicate certain results are about the band? What kind of things do you see on the page that clue you into some of the results are about the band? Do you see a couple items on there? Things like, well, the word band, maybe rock band or contract or, Russian or those types of things. See, the search engines can't understand which interpretation of the search term a searcher intends. They can only match the patterns of text. What cues indicate that some of the results here are about animals? What do you see in the results that we got back that will help us know that some of them are about the animals? I'm sure you can spot the cues in the actual titles or the web address or the snippet or even in the ads that appear. If you notice things like cephalopod or shelled or things like species or genus, then probably you've done a good job recognizing some of the information that appears on your screen that would help you to differentiate between what would be a useful and valid search for us and what wouldn't, right? Anyways, um, I think you did a great job for making those observations, and the ability to look at the details on a page like that is going to be incredibly handy as we continue to go more into detail about what appears on these screens. And just so you know, we should always, look carefully at our results to make educated decisions about where to click. In fact, I advise you, sometimes when you're doing searches, look past, the first screen. Scroll down and see what's down here. Look at some of the other related searches that might be helpful for you. And, go to some of the other pages. I mean, there are literally thousands of pages that we can get. I mean, there's 194,000 results. So while these might be some of the best, you don't always have to just look at just the results here. You got a whole bunch of others that might even provide more targeted, better information for you. So we did our search on the Nautilus punctilius, and we got some results. In fact, each time you do a search, the search engine lists a page of links to sources that it found for your query. This page is actually called the search results page, right? I'm actually going to have you guys go and do a quick search in Google for me. We're going to do a search on historical flags. This brings us back to our guiding questions. How and why do researchers evaluate research results? What shows on my search results screen? And are there problems with the results, like we saw before with the rock band? Or are all of our results on target? And what do we need to know to help us choose the right links once we do our search? Remember, every time we do a search, the search engine lists a page of links to the sources that it found for our query, and that page was called the search results page. Let's go take a look at another one. I'm actually going to do a search for historical flags. So would you join me? We're going to do a search for historical flags. And when you do that search in Google, it's probably going to pull up information that's very similar to mine. If we take a look at it, there's a couple of areas I want you to become familiar with, features if you would. The first one, and probably the one you're most familiar with, well, you kind of had to use it in order to get to this results page, was a search bar. The search bar in Google is generally going to always show up at the top of the results page, where you can see your query and modify it, or if you need to, enter a new one so it's more specific and gives you more targeted results. There's also advertisements. In this particular search that we did, it turns out that there are ads that are resulting in both the right-hand column as well as sometimes at the top of our results in a colored box. The results appear because someone actually paid for them to be there, and they only appear there if they're relevant to our search. You can also see that they're marked with the word ads. That's one great way to be able to pick them apart. That way you can identify which ones are paid results and which ones aren't. Sometimes this color that they use is a lot lighter. It's kind of hard to see. So make sure before you click on anything, you're looking to make sure you're not clicking on any ads. That is, unless you want to buy something. The other most important thing that's really important to us is the natural results. These results are not paid for by anyone and actually can't be bought. Google asks over 200 questions about how your query matches different pages it found on the web when deciding which pages to feature and in what order to list them. One reason search engines do not reveal more about how they rank is that they don't want people to actually manipulate the system and get irrelevant or malicious pages highly ranked in their results. Don't trust me? When you get an opportunity someday, go do a little research into a concept called Google Bomb. And finally, the other thing that you'll notice on your results, the other thing that you're more than likely to notice on your search results page is the filters. The subject of later lessons, we'll get into that. These links right here at the top above our ads and below our search bar, well, they help us to narrow down all of our results. We could look specifically at results in one type of media, like images or video. We can actually pull out things like recipes, you name it. So we'll talk more about filters later. Just know, pretty powerful tool. So now it's your turn to do a little bit of an exercise. On your worksheet, I'd like you to identify these major components of the search results page. I want you to be able to label the search bar, advertisements, where the natural results are, and the filters. In fact, in your handout, I've actually gone through the process of embedding a screenshot for you. So if you look down at exercise B, you'll notice there's a screenshot that correlates with these letters here. So I want you to pause the video, take a moment or two, and go ahead and figure out which one these are. If you have trouble spelling them, just look up in the paragraph above and you'll see most of the things that you're probably having trouble with before. And when you're done with exercise B, you've got all 4 of those in there correctly, you can go ahead and move your worksheet down to exercise C, and then go ahead and unpause. So I'll give you a moment. Go ahead, pause it. Welcome back. Not so hard, I hope. I mean, the search bar is pretty easy to figure out. Advertisements are actually called ads. The natural results, well, that's the stuff we're looking for. And the filters, well, here in this image, my filters are on the left-hand side. Believe it or not, Google does every once in a while change the layout of their search results page. So you might just have to take a moment to stop and re-look at it and find the things that you're looking for. But just so you know, functionality is always going to be there. Anyways, our next focus is to take some of the information that we're going to get in our natural search results that we defined earlier. Each individual source that Google identifies as matching our query is called a search result. This is our search results page because there's multiple ones on there. But each query will return individual search results. Seeing as we just celebrated the presidential inauguration this past week, let's actually go ahead and run a search in Google on president, job, democracy. Yeah, the president's job is, democracy, right? So let's go ahead and do a Google search for that. Now, we're going to take a look at some of the individual parts of the natural results, because each one of the parts of each of these natural results has a very important part to play. It can actually help us determine which of these links would be a good one to click on. So we're going to focus on this PBS Kids one. We'll break that one down so you kind of get a sense. The first part of a natural search result that you should be aware of is the title. The title generally shows up in blue, and it's the first line of the search result. Did you know that Google actually goes through the process of looking at the titles of other web pages before they load, and if it's not a very good title or not descriptive or doesn't work, they'll actually come up with their own title based on what the content is? Pretty trippy, yeah? The next thing you should notice is the green text just under the title. This is the location of the page where this is the location of the page on the web. And it can help you understand at a glance who's actually offering you the source and what kind of source it will be and more. We'll come back and take a look at that in detail a little bit later so you can get a better sense of how to judge a web address. Then you have the thing that we generally rely on for information. This area is called the snippet. The black text under the web address is the text that's taken from the source to which the link points. Kind of gives us an idea of how our search terms appear in the text. It's not a summary of what happens on the link, and it does not provide full information on a topic, and it's not really intended to do so. Remember, you should always click through to see your research terms and the information they provide in context. And the reason for that is, well, these little things. We'll get to that in a moment. Finally, you should notice that there's some bolded words in that snippet. The words that appear darker on the screen are search terms. In some cases, Google actually goes through the process of automatically finding synonyms for our search terms. So if you search for kid, you might see child bolded into your results. I've seen it happen. It's kind of freaky. Anyways, there's one other thing I wanted to show you, and those are called the ellipses. Now, Google uses these three dots, or the ellipse, in snippets to show places in the source where the search terms appear. And unlike ellipses used in traditional writing to show omissions of text, but still, with a fluid thought, the ellipse in a search result are intended to show where search terms appear in the source, and so you can omit portions of the text important to the actual meaning. Remember, you should not take information from the snippet, but clear through to the source itself and see the full text there. Ellipsis. Alright, students, back on your worksheet, I'm going to give you an opportunity to show me that you have a better understanding of the different parts of a natural search result. If you take a look at this image right here. Alright, students, welcome back. Now if you take a look, you'll notice on your worksheet I have an exercise C for you, where I ask you to show me that you understand what the terms are for these different parts of a natural search result. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, look at both your worksheet and this image. And by the way, the image is embedded directly into worksheet. And go ahead and on the table on your worksheet, please write in the search result feature name in the color boxes and circles. So you've got the one in the blue, you've got the one in the black, you've got the one in the green, and then these red ones right there, well, they're a little something different. What are those considered? So please, take a moment, pause your computer, pause this movie, and then we'll take some time when we come back. But take a moment to go ahead and fill in exercise C on your worksheet. I'll show you exactly where it is. Oops. If you take a look, it's right here. So go ahead and fill in these according to what you see down there. And then we'll be moving on in just a moment. Alright, we're going to move on to the final portion of this particular lesson. Specifically, we're going to be looking at how you can read the web address of a natural result to get more information about what the source of that is. So we want to make sure we choose the most useful links among all the possible results. And Google offers increases their efficiency and gets them quickly to the best possible source. To begin to get an idea about a source, we're going to look at some web addresses. Now, it's not a surefire way to know what type or quality of information the source will contain, but it can give us some incredibly important clues. So, Google usually points you to a specific page on a website. Though that might sometimes be the front page or the home page, it can sometimes be helpful to notice if the web page on which the page is located is one you know about and if it's well matched to your task. Sometimes the name of the site gives you an idea about the kind of information you'll find there. The name of the website is usually the first part of the web address, located after the HTTP and the www before the suffix, which typically can be something like .com, .org, .edu. So again, if you're looking for information about the website itself, you've got to look in between the www and that last dot. So, just remember, some of the suffixes that you'll probably see most commonly are things like .com, or .edu, or .org, but there are some new ones out there like .tv as well. So, remember, if you were to go take a look at, the whitehouse.gov, you probably noticed that .gov has its own, or government generally has its own little suffix at the end. You probably are aware that the ones you see more often than not are the .com, the .org, or the .edu, and sometimes even after that, there's more of a string of information. You're going to show me that you know a little bit about how to read through some of these web addresses. So we're going to be looking at several sources, including a title towards a search for Monarch Web. I should say Monarch butterfly migration. In fact, if you go and take a look at our worksheet, you'll notice I have actually put in exercise D the web addresses that would be associated with monarch butterflies. And what we're asking you to do is to try and decode these different links to kind of get a sense and idea of what kinds of information or resources or useful knowledge would be at these websites before you even go visit them. And it's easy enough to just go ahead and highlight, copy, plug that in, and see where it goes, and then kind of make an assessment. But that kind of defeats the point. What we're asking you to do is to take a look at these addresses and try and see if you can't get an idea or figure it out or decipher what you feel might be at that address. And then you're going to go ahead and write it right in to your Google Education Search worksheet. Alright, I'll go ahead and give you a couple of moments to do that. How did you do? Were you able to go ahead and take a look at this list of websites and kind of get a general sense and idea of who might be behind writing this and what was their purpose and what was it for? And how can you continue to use the information that you got from here to help you diagnose that? So just a little bit of a refresher about this. Each web address designates what file or website will open when you actually click on it. Domain name or the address includes the name of the site and a suffix. In most cases, one of the following. .com, that's for most companies. .org, which is used for organizations. .fox, .net is for network-based sites. .edu is for colleges and universities. .gov is government, and .mil is military. So you probably are pretty familiar with some of the domain names like .com and .edu, and probably even some newer ones like .tv. There are actually some sites that might have an extra 2-digit suffix that indicates that site is hosted on a server outside our country. So you could actually do this yourself by going and doing a Google search, but instead of going to .com, which you could do, you can actually put a .uk at the end, and maybe that would take us to the UK Google. Actually, it's google.co.uk is theirs, not com, but co. So UK is actually the country code for England. But you can probably guess what JP is, right? That would be the Japanese suffix. And there are other ones like Australia, which is, is it not AU? Let me find out. Google.com, Australia. Actually, what's going to end up happening, I think, Google's a little different in Australia because instead of .co, they actually use .com. So it's kind of interesting. But if you're interested in learning about which country has which file extension name or which country code, you can easily find that information on campus or out there on the web. The final thing I'm going to kind of say is, remember, if you can examine a web address, you can often get a general sense and idea about what type of information you're going to find if you were to click on that link or go to that site. Some sites are better than others when it comes to research for the classroom. Can you think what type of site domain names or suffixes will help you find valid research information for like a local university or from a local university? You could, if only you know how to read the domain name, right? Because you could pick out, oh, that's a university site, that's not a university site. Anyway, so the final thing that you're going to be doing is in class, you're going to go and give us a little bit of an idea as to what you think the information is ask going to provide for you. But if you were to go back and take a look at your worksheet, you'll probably find that that was exercise D. Exercise E and F are a little bit different. In exercise E and F, well, I'm going to give you a couple of extra ones to try, where I'm giving you a website and asking what you think you might find at the address. But the final thing you're going to be doing for homework exercise F is actually you're going to be going to a website called googleaday.com, which is totally awesome, a lot of fun. And what you're going to do is you're going to solve three, or at least three, of the Google search questions. And when you do, you're actually going to get points. And so it'd be really awesome if you could go through the process of doing a Google a day and solving 3 questions in a row. And hopefully you've got plenty of time left over. It'll give you a little bit of correct answer information, and then it's going to give you your total score. And this is what I'm most interested in. So why don't you go through the process of heading to Google a day, and you can go and actually save an image on your own computer and swap it out with one. So again, I'm looking for you to take a screenshot of your total score, and then eventually you're going to swap it out with mine. Well, I hope you've learned a little bit today about how we go through the process of understanding the results that we get back. We just broke it down a little bit. We'll spend a little bit more time in the next upcoming class looking at filters and a couple other things. But I'd like to wish you luck with completing your Google Education worksheet for lesson 1 and 2. And I'm pretty sure that most classes have gotten about a cycle to be able to go ahead and get this done and turned in. So make sure you get it done and turned in as soon as you get an opportunity. Good luck.